Welcome everyone. This class is meant to be an intermediate level, focusing on chest openers, heart openers, expanding, stretching out, getting free from the binds that chain you in your home. Inspired by my friend Jeff. We're going to start standing. So just find a comfortable way to stand. You're welcome to start seated if you'd like. If you're standing, find Tadasana with the feet rooted down together, legs engaged, chest lifted, good posture, shoulders back and down, and then close your eyes. Take a moment to just focus on your breath, observing it at first, noticing how you're breathing. If the breath is deep or shallow, choppy or smooth. And then keeping the lips gently closed, start to gradually deepen your inhales. And lengthen out your exhales, slowing them down. Allow the natural expansion in the abdomen as you breathe in, and then the rib cage. Exhale slowly, emptying out the lungs. And now you can start to engage the Ujjayi breath, bringing that gentle constriction to the muscles in the back of your throat. Bringing focus to the mind and heat into the body. We'll take a few more rounds, developing our Ujjayi pranayama. Once you finish your next exhale, gently open your eyes. Reach your arms out and up overhead. Stretch up, reach. If you want, you can interlace the fingers and turn the palms up. Getting a nice stretch in the posterior deltoids and the lats. Maybe even the side ribs if you're a little tight there. Keep breathing. Now if your fingers are interlaced and palms up, turn the palms together and point index fingers up. Take your feet out wide. Cock your left hip. Cock your left hip up and then tilt to the left. So right side body is stretching a little bit more. Keep breathing steady. And then come back to neutral spine, level hips. Deep breath in. Exhale, tilt the hips over to the right, cock up the right hip, and tilt your torso to the right. Inhale, come back to neutral spine, level hips. Exhale, release your arms out and down. Roll the shoulders forward, up and back, and down. And again, inhale, forward, up, back, and down. Keep them down, reach out, palms facing forward or up. Really open up the chest. Let this action of what your palms are doing come from the shoulder joints, externally rotating, and the shoulder blades retracting. Breathe into not just the belly expanding, but feel the rib cage as well. Release the arms, maybe shake them out a little bit. Find your way to the front of the mat, feet hip width or together, it's up to you. And then interlace the fingers behind your back. Maybe start with the elbows a bit bent so you can bring the palms together. Roll the shoulder heads away from your chest and then press your knuckles toward the floor. Use that action to expand the rib cage. Avoid letting the palms separate and the shoulders drop forward. If the elbows need to be bent for palms to be together, that's probably a better thing, a good thing. Take a deep breath in, expand the chest a little bit more. And as you exhale, we're gonna fold forward, bending at the hips, keeping the knees unlocked. If it gets to be too intense on the shoulders, you can grab opposite elbows behind you and just hang out here in your forward fold with the fingers interlaced behind the back or opposite forearms held. If you're getting a really tough stretch in the hamstrings and it's a little too intense, bend your knees more. Now, keeping the arms where they are, or if you need to, you can let them dangle down, releasing them down. We're going to actually bend the knees quite a bit, drop the butt, and bring your spine a little more parallel to the floor. Maybe look forward a little bit. This is the breath in. Exhale is going to straighten the legs again, letting the hips lift and the head drop. Inhale, once again, bend the knees, bring your head up a little so spine is more parallel to the floor. Exhale, straighten the legs, let your hips lift, head drop. One more time. Inhale, bend the knees, sit back, look forward. Exhale, fold down, lifting hips, dropping the head. If your fingers are still interlaced, bring your hands to the lower back. And release your arms down, let them dangle. Now for our next pose, some of you might want to use blocks under your hands. Others might just bring the hands up to shins or thighs. I prefer a block because I get a better stretch. Imagine that, using a prop to get more of a stretch. So hands are on the blocks, shins or thighs. And then all we're doing is letting the right arm dangle with the palm facing the block. Bring your spine parallel to the floor. It's very important that you're not hunched over here. Reach your right arm straight out to the side, palm facing down. And then keeping the hips locked in place, rotate at the waist to turn your chest to the side. Both shoulders pulling back so your chest is really open. It doesn't matter how far up your arm reaches. Aim for a spinal twist and no forward rolling in of your shoulder. Deep breath in. Exhale, release the twist. Put your right hand on the block, shin or thigh, and reach the left arm straight out, palm facing down first. Check the hips and knees. Knees are unlocked. Hips are level to the floor. Chest presses forward, tail back. Deep breath in. Exhale, rotate at the waist. You might be looser on this side, twisting. You might be tighter. Honor what your body needs. Try not to give in too much to what the ego tells you it wants. Deep breath in. Exhale, release your twist and just fold down. Take a moment there. If you were using blocks, you can place them off to the side. And just bring your palms to the mat. Step your feet back to downward dog. The hips will be less flexed here than they were in a forward fold. Feel free to pedal out the legs slowly if you'd like to. Keeping fingers spread and rooted. Breath steady. Now bring your legs back to stillness if you're pedaling. On an inhale, go up to the tiptoes, press to plank with shoulders over wrists, glutes contracted. Exhale, bring knees down. Keep your butt in the air as you bring your chest down between the hands for Ashtanga Namaskar. Chin touches the floor as well. And then slide the hips down and chest forward for Cobra. Traditional or a little harder, it's up to you which one. Now from Cobra, reach back for Locust. If you're doing the harder Cobra, untuck the toes. Press the tops of the feet against the floor and push your hips down. See if you feel your glutes contract. Now use the expansion of the ribs and belly on your breath in to come up a little higher, perhaps. One more deep breath in. And then exhaling, bring your hands under your shoulders, press up to tabletop. And then extend the right leg back and up behind you in tabletop. Externally rotate your left hip to turn your pelvis to the side, and then bend the right knee. Keep both arms straight. Stay here or take right hand close to the body as you reach back to grab the foot, pushing the foot into the hand, opening up both sides of the chest, the right hip flexors, stretching maybe the inner left thigh a bit. Now release the foot if you have it, straighten the leg out to the side and reach your right arm up. So you're in kind of like a kneeling half moon. Now bend the right knee, bring it toward your chest, level the hips to the floor as you step the right foot forward, and now you're in a low lunge. Put blocks under your hands if you need a little propping, or you can put your hands on the right thigh. For a moment, let's bring the hips up and out of the lunge. Check some posture stuff. So make sure the belly's not just hanging out. Draw a low belly in, expand the chest. Keep the abdominal muscles engaged as you let the hips drop. Maybe contract the left glutes. Steady breath, opening up left hip flexors. Now, if you're low in a lunge, push into the thigh again to go to more of a kneeling. And then push off the right foot to go to kneeling on both knees. Take a moment here just to notice the difference in your hip flexors if you feel one. And then go back to all fours. Extend the left leg back and up behind you. Externally rotate the right hip to turn your pelvis to the side, and then bend the left knee. If your right foot wants to kick off to the side, that's fine. Stay here with both arms straight, or go to left fingertips first. Take the hand close to the center of gravity to reach back and grab the foot. If you have the foot, push the foot into the hand. Both sides of the chest stay open. Breath is steady. Now release the left foot if you're holding it and straighten it back out behind you. So you're facing the side. Reach the left arm up. And then bring your left knee toward your chest. Now we're going from externally rotated right hip to only flexed as you bring your left foot forward. Pelvis facing the front of the mat now. Bring your hands to the left thigh. Push against it to go to more of a kneeling position. And then do that posture check again. Low belly in, chest expanded, shoulders back and down. And then maybe let the hips drop forward and down, keeping core engaged. So there's energy lifting the spine up, keeping it neutral and long. One more deep breath. And then exhaling. Push off of the left foot so you go to more of a kneeling position, and then go to both knees, standing on them. Take a moment to check your knees. Bring them no wider apart than hip width. So where your hip joints are, the knee joints right underneath there. Or you can think of the kneecaps right underneath there. Bring your hands to your hips. Some of you might keep your hands here. Others might have more open shoulders and chest where you can puff out the chest and roll the shoulder heads back, which should hopefully help expand the chest to bring the elbows straight back behind you. And then lengthen the lower back, contract the glutes, draw a low belly in and lift your chest for camel. Heel of the palm might press against the top of the sacrum if your chest is pretty open. Now go back to a neutral spine. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, come back to hands and knees. Tuck your toes under as you breathe in. Exhale, lift up to downward dog. Take a moment, a full breath cycle in downward dog. Now on your inhale, come to plank again. Exhale, Ashtanga Namaskar. Knees, chest, and chin touch down, toes are pressing into the mat. Inhale, Cobra. And then untuck the toes. Bring your forearms to the mat with your elbows either under your shoulders or further forward of them, not further back. So if they're a little more forward, it's easier on the lower back. We're doing Sphinx. Feet and legs will go a little wider than hips. Top of the feet pushed down. There's a lot of engagement, a lot of muscular engagement in this pose. I like to start with the bottom and work my way up. Tops of the feet pressed down. Quads contract to lift the back of the knees. And then glutes contract to firm up everything and stabilize. Core contracts, lifting the belly a little off the floor. And then trapezius and lats contract to pull the shoulder blades back and down and puff the chest out. A lot of work in this pose. It should be work. No pinching in the lower back. If there is any, take the arms forward and come down a little lower. Everything is firm and hard. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, bring your hands under your shoulders, legs back together. Tuck your toes under. Whether you go through tabletop or plank to downward dog, lift the hips before anything else. Come back to downward dog. On an inhale, lift your right leg up toward the ceiling, turn your pelvis to the right and bend the right knee. So the left hip is externally rotated here. Arms are straight. And now back to downward dog. Other side, lift your left leg up. Externally rotate right hip to turn your pelvis to the side and then bend the left knee. Keep weight even in both arms. And now release back to downward dog. On your inhale, come to plank. Exhale, lower knees, chest, chin, or if chaturanga is in your practice, feel free to do it. Cobra on your inhale or upward dog if you know it. Exhale, downward dog. Inhaling, lift the right leg up toward the ceiling. Exhale, step your foot between your hands and either keep the left knee lifted or bring it down for a little less intensity. If bringing your left hand to the floor makes you sink to the left, then put a block under your hand or make a fist. Reach the right arm straight out to the side like we did earlier in that forward fold, palm facing the floor. And let's check our alignment. Lift up the left hip so your hips are level to the floor. Straighten the left knee if you have the knee off the mat. And then the rib cage rotates to the right without left hip dropping. My arm doesn't reach straight up because my twist isn't open enough yet for that. And I'm totally okay with that fact. My ego does not control me in this position. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, release your twist and step back to downward dog, moving the block out of the way. Lift your right leg up toward the ceiling, turn the pelvis to the side, bend the knee, stay here, or if your practice is advanced enough for a wild thing, go ahead and go to the outer edge of the left foot first as you step the right foot down. And then both feet flat and pointing in the same direction. There's different variations of wild thing. To come out of it, go to the outer edge of the left foot, straighten the knee, and then go to the left tiptoes. Bring both feet down for downward dog. You are welcome to go to child's pose to rest here, or if you're feeling like movement, come to plank on your inhale. Exhale can be Ashtanga Namaskar again, or I'm going to demonstrate Chaturanga. You bend the elbows straight back, come about halfway down, Don't just fly through the pose, because this is the pose. And then tops of the feet, go to the floor, arms straighten, knees are off the mat for upward dog. Really puff out your chest and lift it here. Use your core to lift the hips. Maybe your feet slide a little forward to be able to roll over the toes. Going into downward dog. On an inhale, lift your left leg up. Exhale, step your foot between your hands. Make sure the heel can be rooted. You can use your hand to guide the foot forward more. Right knee can stay lifted, or you can bring it down for a little less intensity. And maybe grab a block for underneath your right hand. Reach the left arm straight out to the side, palm facing the floor. This position of your left shoulder blade in relation to your chest is what we want to maintain in the twist. So if you were upright, this is what you would look like. And then when you twist, this is what the shoulder should remain looking like the whole time. So you're just a little more leaned forward. That same action going on in the spine, same openness in the chest. Breath is steady. If the right knee is lifted, really fire up the glutes, straighten at the knee, press the leg back. One more deep breath in. Exhale, release your twist. Move your block if you're using one and step to downward dog. From downward dog, lift your left leg up. Externally rotate right hip. Bend the left knee. Stay or go to outer edge of right foot and then foot flat, both feet on the floor, toes facing in the same direction. Left arm reaching overhead toward the front of the mat. Coming out, go to outer edge of right foot, then tiptoes, then both feet down. Downward dog. You're welcome to rest in child's pose or flow through vinyasa. Core is engaged if you're flowing. Do chaturanga if you're doing it. Lots of extension in the spine in your upward dog. Core lifts you back up to downward dog. Let's go to the knees. And then make your way down to the belly. Reach your arms back by your sides. Push your hips into the floor using the glutes. And then once again, come up into locust. Roll your shoulder heads up away from your chest. Feet can lift by lifting the back of the knees. You're welcome to interlace your fingers behind your back and roll the shoulder heads up away from your chest even more. One more. Deep breath in. And exhaling, release. Turn to a cheek or cross forearms and rest your head on them. Now come up to your forearms again, just like in Sphinx. Except we're going to turn the left forearm parallel to the front edge of the mat. Have your legs pretty close together. Bend the right knee so your foot lifts up. Reach back with your right hand. Maybe you grab the outside of the foot. If you're wearing pants, you can stick your finger into the bottom of the pants, or you can use a strap. Once you have a hold of the foot, face the front of the mat and really press the hips down, contract the glutes. As you do that, you might feel the stretch in the right quads increase. Those of you that are pretty open can walk the fingers over the top of the toes to the inside of the foot, making sure that that doesn't make your shoulder head pop down. So from this side, what you don't want to have happen is this. Lots of openness in the chest. If your hand is on the inside of the foot, the elbow is bent back. One more deep breath in. Glutes are contracted. Exhale, release the foot down, take a rest. You can either rest here, or if you want to go up to downward dog and flow through vinyasa, there's going to be enough time for it if you want. All right, so let's go for the other side now. Go down to the belly if you're not already there. Take your right forearm parallel to the front of the mat. Legs are together as you bend the left knee. Reach back and grab the foot. If your hamstrings start to cramp and you have the foot in your hand or strap, or you're holding onto it somehow, let the foot or the leg really just kind of relax, and then start pushing the foot into the hand. Glutes contracted. Chest eventually facing the front of the mat. And you can also fire up the right leg to stabilize more. Maybe your hands or your fingers walk over the top of the toes to the inside of the foot, which then, remember, shouldn't make this happen. Lots of openness in the chest, elbow is bent. And if your foot goes a little outside of your hip, that's okay. Deep breath in. And then exhaling, release the foot. Take a rest or come up to downward dog to flow. Now bring your hands under your shoulders. Tuck your toes under. We're going back up to downward dog. So like I said earlier, lift your hips before anything else, whether going through tabletop or plank. That'll strengthen your core the more you do it that way. On an inhale, lift your right leg up toward the ceiling. Exhale, step your foot between your hands. Coming into warrior two, externally rotate right hip to turn left foot sideways. Cartwheel left arm up and then the right, stacking shoulders above hips. Right knee bent facing the same direction as the toes. And rib cage facing the side. Left arm straight out from the shoulder. Not this going on. That hurts, but people do it all the time. And then gaze will be over the right middle finger. Keep the left leg real straight at the knee. Breath is steady. Now reverse warrior. Flip your right palm. Let's do it with a bind with the left arm behind the back. Keep the hips low and then laterally flex your spine to the left. The right armpit is not open or facing outward. Turn it in so that the bicep goes near the cheek and you're feeling more stretch in the whole side body. Now for a moment, straighten the right leg and drop the right hip toward opposite foot for reverse triangle. You can kick out the left heel if you want. And then we're going to go into warrior two, leveling the hips, bend the right knee, extend the arms. Take a deep breath in as you reach further to the right. Exhaling, bring right forearm to thigh, sweep left arm down and around, reaching overhead for extended side angle. The left leg is still very straight. And your right hand, if you're feeling a little more open than this in the inner right thigh, you can bring your hand to the floor or a block. Now on your inhale, come back up to warrior two. Exhale, cartwheel your hands to frame the right foot, go to left tip toes, and step back to downward dog. You're welcome to rest or flow through vinyasa. Let's meet back in downward dog. On an inhale, lift your left leg up toward the ceiling. Exhale, step your foot between the hands. Grab it along the way if you need to. Externally rotate the left hip to turn right foot sideways. That's when it starts to stretch the inner left thigh. And then reach right arm forward, up and out, cartwheeling your arms up into warrior two. Don't let the left knee buckle in. That's not good for the knee joint. Keep it right above the ankle. Even if that means pressing your left hand against the inner thigh a little bit. Gaze is over the left middle finger. Keep breathing. Now Urdhva Virabhadrasana. Flip left palm up. with a bind, right arm behind the back. Maybe the palm faces out. Maybe you get the fingers to hip crease. That's fairly tough. Laterally flex the spine to the right. Not a back bend, but a lateral flexion. For a moment, straighten the left leg. Maybe kick out the right heel a little. Drop the left hip down toward opposite foot in reverse triangle. If you feel your right waist crunching, that's probably a sign you're doing it right. If you don't feel it crunching, that's not necessarily a sign that you're doing it wrong. Come back to warrior two. Extend the arms, breathe in and reach to the left. Exhale, left forearm to thigh. Swing right arm down and around, reaching overhead, bicep by the cheek. Armpit facing either the same direction as your chest or the floor, but not up or toward your back foot. Option is to take left hand to the floor, which doesn't come from just bending over more. It comes from bending the left knee more and dropping the hips further. It's a lot more inner thigh stretch to get your hand to the floor correctly. Make sure that left heel can still root down. And then on the next inhale, reach right arm up, both arms, warrior two. Exhale, cartwheel your hands, step to downward dog. Take a rest or flow through vinyasa. And we'll meet in tabletop now. We're gonna come to puppy, and this one, the hips stay right above the knees, but then you walk your hands forward, similar to when you would come into child's pose, but with the hips above the knees and the forearms staying off of the mat, we get a little more shoulder stretch. If you're really, really flexible, you might bring your chin and chest to the floor, and then your arms would come down. But if you're just having the forehead on the floor, not the chin and chest, then you'll probably want to keep the forearms lifted. Keep breathing. One more full breath cycle in puppy, Anahatasana. And then on the inhale, lift up your chest if it's on the floor, and then lift the forearms if they're down. Walk your hands back under your shoulders and sit back onto your feet. So some of you might find it's not very comfortable to sit on your feet, and that's fine. You might stick a block underneath your butt, between your feet. Lift up your chest, expand it, and then roll the shoulders back and down and reach out to your sides. Palms either facing forward or up. One more deep breath in. And exhale, relax your arms. Shake them out a little if you want to. Okay, now however you're sitting, we're going to change the position of the hip joints just a little bit. We're bringing them to an adduction and internal rotation. So a lot of my students already know where we're heading just from me saying that. It's hero. If you want to start on standing up on the knees, sometimes that's helpful, sometimes. The inner thighs are together. That's what creates the hip adduction. So this would be neutral hip joints. This is adducted because they're closer to the midline. And then the internal rotation of the hips comes from when your feet turn out. And you can even feel that if you put your hands on the front of your thighs and feel what happens when you bring the feet out. You should feel the front of your thighs turn a little more in toward each other. It's subtle, but it's the movement and the change is subtle, but the effect is pretty big. So now sit back between the feet. Put a block under your butt if that hurts the knees. Pain in the knees is not beneficial. And neither is sitting like this with your toes turned out. That's going to destroy your knees in time, so don't do that. Toes point straight back, and you're on the tops of your feet. And if your arches cramp, you can put something like the size of a balled up sock under where your ankle flexes. You could even stick your hands under there if that helps. If this is happening, you should probably choose to prop your butt up higher. Keep the adduction and internal rotation of your hips. You can stay just like this, or some of you might already be heading in this direction. You can lean back onto your hands. Every time you go back further, check what's going on with your legs. So this tends to happen. Inner thighs together, knees or shins pushing down. If you want to go further down, I would suggest not being on a block if you do this, so butts on the floor. You can go to forearms, and then check again, hips or thighs together, shins pushing down. Maybe you lift the hips a little and bring them to the floor. And then if that's still fairly easy, you can walk the hands forward, maybe grab onto your heels and lay on your back. If you're laying on your back, the back does not need to be flat. It's hard to get it flat, and it's not even that necessary. It's not even really correct spine alignment if it's totally flat, because there's a natural curve in the lower back that will keep the lower back a little bit lifted. We want to keep the core engaged to prevent too much arch. And of course, shoulder blades pushing down, maybe arms or palms up. You can come out of this at any time, but if it feels nice to stay here for a little longer, go ahead. When you get to the point where you can go on your back without pain, it feels nice to just stay here for a while. Keep breathing. If you came out of it, you can just sit upright or go to like a seated cross-legged position and focus on your breath. If you are laying on your back still, you have the option of reaching your arms behind you, maybe interlacing the fingers. Pretty open shoulders. Sometimes I tend to cross one wrist over the other and then turn the palms to press together and then reach. All right, now bring your arms by your sides if they're overhead. When I get out of this way, I'll push the elbows into the floor to start lifting up my chest and head, and then walk the arms back a little further to go to the forearms, and then to the hands to push up. And then we're back in tabletop to release the knees and ankles from the position they were just in for a long time. Take your right toes to the back of the mat, and then press your heel back. Notice your breath. And then go back to both knees. Take left toes to the back of the mat. Press your heel back. Stay light in the shoulders. And then come back to both hands and knees again. From here, we're going to come to a seated position. I'm going to give a couple of options for this next pose. Wheel is what we're going to work toward. Some of you might have wheel in your practice, some of you might not. Because part of the intention of wheel is to really open up the chest and shoulders and expand the lungs. If wheel is not calling out to you, an option instead is to either take a bolster if you have one, or maybe a block, and lay in more of a supported fish, which would really just be propping up your chest so it's expanded like it would be in wheel. And then you can reach your arms back behind you so your shoulders are in a similar position that they would be in wheel. They're flexed. In wheel, they're quite a bit more flexed than they are here, but this still mimics some of it. And if you want, you can take your arms to a little bit closer of a wheel position with the palms on the floor and the elbows no wider apart than shoulder width. So that's an option. It's more restorative too. You can also extend the legs down. You should feel an expansion in the ribs with the block underneath you. So that's one option, or you can do wheel, where once you're on your back, you have the knees bent. When I get real strategic about arm placement, I'll suggest reaching the arms straight up first. They're parallel to each other. And then flex the wrists, then the elbows. Don't let the elbows flare out. And then reach a little bit more behind you so the shoulders are flexing here to take fingertips to the floor and then the palms down. When you get ready to come up, try not to let the elbows flare out. That's a phase that a lot of students spend a decent amount of time on, is working on getting the elbows to not flare out. So wheel, when you're ready to come up to it, you'll lift up the hips, chest comes up just like in bridge, and then you either just push right up into it or you go to the crown of your head first to get your bearings. Take in what the world looks like upside down, and then push with the arms to lift up, but you're also pushing with the feet. So if you're only pushing up with the arms, what tends to happen is you kind of go like this and the knees go too far forward. So push with the legs too. Expand. Liberate yourself from your home life. And then if you're up there fairly high, you can look down towards your hands to add more extension all the way up to the cervical spine. Don't forget to breathe. Now, start bending the elbows if you're in wheel. Maybe go to the crown of your head first, then tuck the chin to go to the shoulder blades and come back down with control. Take a rest, however feels good. Now, if you're in that supported fish pose with the block underneath you, stay there, because that's where we're going to end up anyway. If you did wheel, roll to your side gently. Press up to a position where you can grab something to stick under your shoulder blades. And it can be a block, it can be a rolled up towel, blanket, a firm pillow. And feel free to pause the video to go grab one if you want. So when you lay on it, just like I mentioned earlier, lay on it so when you lay back, it angles your rib cage so that your chest is facing straight up and your head can drop back. If it crunches the back of your neck too much and you end up like with your head pretty much upside down instead of a little angled, feel free to put like a blanket or something else under your head. But make sure your chest is still lifted and expanded. And then we're going to bring the arms by the sides. Bend the knees if they're not already, so your feet are flat on the floor. And then lift your hips just like you would in bridge. If you start falling off the back of the block, just kind of wiggle your way down a little bit more. And then see if maybe you can interlace your fingers behind your back, not pushing up the shoulder heads, but pulling them back to maybe lift your chest a little higher still. And remember to breathe. If you contract your trapezius muscles enough, it might create more of a muscular shelf underneath you to lift you higher and provide some cushioning on top of whatever you're laying on if it's hard. That's what she said. Come down real slow with control. Be mindful that when you bring your hips to the floor that it doesn't pinch your lower back. So if it does, then just kind of scoot down a little bit. Rest there. Knees together, feet a little wider than your hips. Breathe. Now take your time. Roll gently to your side off of whatever you're laying on. Reach back behind you, move it off out of the way. And lay flat on your back. Take a moment there with your eyes closed and just feel if there's like, pulsing kind of sensations on the back body somewhere after the thoracic spine was supported in an extension. Now gently hug your knees to your chest, but take your hands to the back of your thighs. We're setting up for happy baby. A lot of times when I say that word, people end up just going into this weird position. Take your knees and feet wider apart than your hips, and then feet lift so that the soles of your feet more or less face the ceiling. Keep the tailbone and shoulder blades down and the back of the neck not crunched. And if you're able to do that, those three things, tailbone down, shoulder blades down, back of the neck not crunched, then you might reach up and grab the front of your ankles. People end up a lot of times going a step further and grabbing the feet. I would suggest not holding the inside of the feet unless you have a lot of control over your body and you understand knee joint anatomy. If you're holding the feet, I would suggest holding pinky toe sides of the feet. That creates less of a pull into a lateral flexion of the knee joints. Lateral flexion is not meant to occur in the knee joints. Now, if this is pretty easy, you're welcome to straighten your legs to stretch the hamstrings a little more. But as you do that, some people will tend to turn into a flipped over pill bug. Make sure tailbone stays down along with shoulder blades. This is fairly advanced to be able to do this, so you know your body, you know your practice. One more deep breath. If your legs are straight, as you exhale, bend the knees, and then take the knees back together and release your feet to the floor. Take a moment to rest there. Now hug your knees to your chest once again, but then straighten your legs up above your hips and flex your ankles for inverted staff. Bring your arms at your sides, press your shoulder blades down, and really fire up your core here. You're welcome to stay in inverted staff, or if you want to do shoulder stand or you're not quite sure how it's done, I would suggest pausing the video and watching first and then rewinding and doing the pose. So I say that because if you're not quite sure how to do it, once you get your hips off the floor, which is where we're going, it's very important that you don't turn your head at all. So if you're following along and doing the pose while I'm demonstrating and you want to watch, then you have to have your iPad or your screen right above your face. So watch first if you're not sure. Legs will swing up overhead, hands to the lower back, starting in plow. Try to go out of a spinal flexion here. So less hunching, more neutrality in the spine. Maybe your hands walk, depending on your perspective, down the back to lift the hips higher. This is plow, but any variation, any height of the legs is fine. Then shoulder stand, where you lift the legs up, squeeze them together. And if you're fairly advanced in shoulder stand and you want to do something different with your legs, you can go into a split where right leg goes over your head behind you and left leg goes in the opposite direction. It's harder to get the left leg to go back than it is to get the right leg to go overhead. Now both legs together and then switch if you're doing the splits. Left leg overhead, right leg behind you. Try to keep the right knee straight. That's also hard. And then legs back up together if you're in the splits. And then lower down back into plow. If you need to kind of release your hips a little so that your legs don't pull too far overhead, that's not a bad idea. Ear pressure pose, Karnapadasana. The knees come down outside the forehead or to the forehead. And then bring your forearms to the floor. Keep your thighs real close to the belly as you come one vertebra at a time down to the mat. Once your tailbone touches down, bring feet to the floor. And you can do that if you're in inverted staff as well. And extend the legs all the way down. Take a rest. And now let's come up into fish pose again to a counter. This time not supported. Come up onto the forearms, legs are together, toes pointed. Puff up your chest, head can stay up or you can drop it back. Breathe. Now tuck your chin and come down to your back. Take a rest. From the back, flip onto your belly, move slowly with control. Reach your arms back by your sides, squeeze the legs together. And once again, come into locust or bend the knees, grab the feet, push the feet into the hands and lift into bow. One more heart opener, back bend, expansive pose. Deep inhale. Exhale, come down and rest. Any way that's comfortable for you. Now once again, flip back over onto your back. Have the knees bent, feet flat to the floor. Lift your hips enough to move them to the right and then bring them back down. Take knees up toward the chest. Before the knees go over to the left, extend your arms out to the sides and feel your right shoulder blade rooted to the mat with the chest open. Keep your awareness on that right shoulder blade as you let your knees go to the left. If the right shoulder blade starts to pop up, so from this side it would look like if the shoulder blade starts to pop up, then you need to prop something underneath your legs so they don't go so far over and you can still maintain that chest opening. Palms are facing up. Close your eyes. Feel the expansion in the right ribs as you slowly breathe in deeply, fully filling up the lungs. Feel the weight of your shoulders and hips as you slowly exhale. Feel the expansion in the right ribs as you slowly breathe in as deeply as you can, filling up the lungs. Feel the weight of shoulders and hips as you slowly exhale all the way out. 2 more breaths here. Focusing on expansion and relaxation. 1 more. On your next inhale, bring the knees back up to center. Straighten your spine. And then move your hips over to the left. Take the knees up towards your chest. Bring your awareness to that left shoulder blade. Let it be flat on the floor, not popped up. Keep it there as you slowly bring the knees to the right, noticing if they go all the way over, if your shoulder blade pops up, then put some under the outer thighs so your chest remains open. Palms are up. Feel free to close your eyes. Feel the expansion in the left ribs as you slowly breathe in, slowly, deeply filling up the lungs. Feel the weight of shoulders and hips as you slowly exhale. Feel the expansion as you slowly breathe in filling up the lungs as deeply as you can without force. Slowly exhale, feeling the weight of shoulders and hips. 2 more breaths here. One more. As you inhale, bring the knees back up to center. Straighten your spine. Extend your legs down to the mat and reach your arms overhead for one more expansive stretch. And then bring your arms at your sides, a foot or so out from the hips, palms up, setting up for Shavasana. Take your legs apart a little. Maybe wiggle around to get comfortable. Close your eyes. Feel free to lay something over your eyes to darken it a little bit. Relax your forehead and your temples. Unclench your jaw. Relax your shoulders. Relax your hips and thighs. Let your whole body lie still and relaxed. to deepen your breath. Bring movement back into your fingers and toes. Reach your arms overhead and stretch your whole body. Bend your knees and gently roll over to your most comfortable side and let your whole body rest. When you're ready, gently press back up into a seated position. Once you're upright, bring your hands to your heart and close your eyes. I'm going to close this class with a mantra that I know to be called Invocation to Peace. It is a mantra that is basically asking us all to seek the truth together and to do so without any quarrels amongst us. And I figure that's a little fitting for what we're all going through this day and age. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me. I hope that you all feel more open and expansive and free. Enjoy it.